directions. Um, there's an old folk hero called the Lone Ranger. I'm sure you've heard of him. The Lone Ranger and his sidekick Tonto. Right. Well, whatever. Anyway, oh, silver, whatever. Anyway, see, the Lone Ranger always aimed his shots. Well, it shows they hit the mark. Anyway, see, he wanted to go hit the mark, and they hit the mark. I mean, he could shoot a weather vane from behind his back. It would still hit that weather vane. Whatever. But anyway, that's what you need to do with your words. You need to aim them, and they will hit the mark. It's not that you have to line up your mouth with that same spot and hit the mark. No, you can speak one direction, but your aiming is in the intent of how you speak it. You say you're aiming at Joe. Well, whatever. When you say you're aiming at you. Well, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I hope you do, because I do. Anyway, when we're talking about the president, you see, well, the president. Many people don't realize this, but the president is the servant of their mouth. What you're saying? What are you talking about, Winter? Well, I mean, when you first elected the president, those who elected him were 100% behind him. Were behind him all the way. They were totally behind him. Like when George Bush was elected president. Many people elected George Bush. Well, not as many as you'd think, but he did get elected by the skin of his teeth the first time. The second time he got elected by a pretty good margin, but the first time, no, the second time it was by the skin of his teeth. The first time it was by a pretty good margin, because all the Republicans, they elected George Bush. But I talked to some Republicans after George Bush was president, after a little while, and they said they changed to Democrat because of what George Bush was doing. Now, why was George Bush doing that? Well, obviously, he wasn't doing wrong, but they perceived it as wrong. They didn't like it. But why? They were not praying for him. And, now let me take another example of another president. Those who elected the president in the first place, they were 100% behind him, right? But after a while, he started doing things wrong. Why did he start doing things wrong? And the people that were 100% behind him started complaining about him. Well, you got to ask yourself, I elected this guy. Why is he doing things that I don't like? And why am I starting to complain about him? Well, if you find out, the reason is you haven't been praying for him. So he's gone doing bad things that you don't like, and you're starting to complain about him and not praying for him and all that stuff. Soon he's not going to be president next time because you're not going to elect him. Well, the thing is, if you stop complaining about him and start praying for him again, he might get better. He might go from downswing and start going up again. So, anyway, anyway, um, now, let me talk to you about, well, a candy. Candy. Uh, the Tootsie Roll. Well, the Tootsie Pop. I don't know if it's still around. In fact, I don't think the real Tootsie Pop is still around. They make other things that are like the Tootsie Pop, but not really the Tootsie Pop. It was made by Tootsie Roll, I think. The real one, real big one. It had a stick, usually made by cardboard. It was a stick, and it was a Tootsie Pop candy. And it looked like the stick was going into the candy. Actually, the stick was going further into the Tootsie Roll center. That chewy center, Tootsie Roll. So that's the way people think of their words. They think their words come from their head. Not really. See, their heart is where the words actually come from. Not this heart, but the heart, the center of man. They think their words come from the Tootsie Roll, from the hard candy shell, which is not the truth, not truth. Actually, your words, because if you lick the candy shell, if you can lick that shell without breaking it, I don't know anyone who did it without breaking it, without chomping down on it. Anyway, you find even if you chomp down on the shell, you find the stick still there, attached to the candy, because it's attached to the Tootsie Roll center. That's the heart of the matter, and that's where your words come from, the heart. So it's what's in your heart that will come out of your mouth. I've heard preachers say this, and it's true. It's true. I can tell exactly where you are by listening to you speak for 1 hour, but you have to start the conversation. I've got to let you talk about anything you want, and you start the conversation. You just talk and talk and talk, and I'll know where you're coming from, what's in your heart, just by hearing you speak. Now, there's another way, like when I go into a store or somewhere, I say, "How's Jesus treating you?" I can tell by your reaction too, where your heart is. I mean, Jesus always treats you great, but when I say that, "How's Jesus treating you?" people at work might be afraid of their boss or something, or maybe the consequences. Their boss is nowhere around, but they're afraid, oh, some employee who can't hear you at all might see your reaction and telling you. So he's not a friend. But they don't have to say anything. All they just have to do is smile or with a joyful expression. Say, "Great." That's great. But I can tell by their reaction too to that one question. A lot of times I can. Sometimes they will mislead you, but a lot of times I can tell by their expression, by the reaction, and by 1 hour of speech, 1 hour of time of letting them talk. I can tell where their heart is. Now, I'm not talking about, oh, they've got to give a speech or they've got to give a sermon. No. I'm talking about taking them into your home and just having a conversation with them, letting them start the conversation, talking to them about whatever they want to talk about. I can tell a lot of times where their heart is. But Jesus knows where their heart is all the time, already. So Jesus will already know where your heart is. Now, Jesus said, if you confess me before men, then I will confess you before my Father in heaven. And he also said, if you deny me, or don't come with me in your heart. But he said, if you deny me before men, then I will deny you before my Father in heaven. Think about that. Don't deny Jesus. Confess Jesus as Lord. Bye.